Exercise D2, Linear Growing Patterns, Part 2. 1. Which rule goes with each graph? So here, how do we approach a question like this? It may be a good idea to take a quick look at the rules, but focus more on understanding the graphs. So the choices that we have for the different rules are position number times 4 plus 6. So what does the multiplier relate to? It relates to the changes from one position to the next. The adding part relates to the starting point on the y-axis, or the number of tiles axis. Then we have rule B, position number times 6 plus 4. Rule C, position number times 2 plus 6. Rule D, number of tiles, is position number times 6 plus 2. Then you will go down to take a look at the graphs. The very first thing that I'm going to circle is the y-intercept. So first graph starts at 2. Immediately, I know there is only one rule that has an adding part of 2. But we don't want to jump to conclusion yet. We need to check to see if the changes from one position to the next is going up by 6. So very quickly, go back to the graph. We're at 2 at position 0. In position 1, we have 8 tiles. The change is 6. So right away, I know the pattern tile is D. Graph number 2. The graph starts at 6, while both A and C has an adding part of 6. So we need to check further. Going from position 0 to position 1, the number of tiles goes from 6 to 10, which is an increase of 4 tiles. Let's check one more time. Position 1 has 10 tiles, position 2 has 14 tiles. We went up by 4 again. So with a multiplier of 4 and an adding part of 6, this is rule A. Last graph starts at 4. From position 0, 4 tiles, to the position 1, 10 tiles. We're going up by 6. So the rule is 6x plus 4, which is rule B. Number 2. Complete the chart. We have different ways to represent these pattern rules. We can have the equation, we can have visual representations, table of values, and number of tiles to build position 100, which is usually the calculation part, because position 100 is too far for us to draw it all out. So with this visual representation, pattern 1, and position 1 has 4 tiles, position 2, 8, position 3, 12. So right away I can fill out the table of values. X representing positions 1, 2, and 3. Y column representing the number of tiles. Each time we go up by 4. So the multiplier is 4. If I backtrack from position 1, subtract 4, I get y equals 0 in position 0. So there is no addition. We have a pattern rule of y equals to 4x. The number of tiles to build position 100 will be 4 times 100, which is 400. Second question. We are given the pattern rule y equals 2x plus 3. So the plus 3 part, the adding part, is fixed. So I decide to use triangles to represent the fixed part. And then in each position, we start with 2 times 1, which is 2 tiles. So I decide to use the changing pieces with circles. So I have 2 circles and 3 triangles, 5 tiles in total in position 1. In position 2, there will be 2 groups of 2 tiles And in position 3, there will be 3 groups of 2 tiles of circles. Filling out the table of values, positions 1, 2, 3 are in the X column, and the number of tiles shown under the Y column will be 5, 7, and 9. To find the number of tiles in position 100, we apply 100 as X in the pattern rule, so 2 times 100 is 200 plus 3. We need a total of 203 tiles to make position 100. Rule number 3, y equals 3x plus 1. The constant is 1. Here, my squares represent that 1. 3x tells me in each position there is that position number of groups of 3. So I've decided to show my groups of 3 like this. And in position 2, there are 2 groups of 3. Position 3, there are 3 groups of 3. Counting all the tiles in each position. So again, in the table of values, X column, I have positions 1, 2, and 3. Y column shows position Y has 4 tiles. Position 2 has 7 tiles. And position 3 will have 10 tiles altogether. In position 100, is y equals 3 times 100 plus 1, which is 301. Question 3a. Circle the linear growing pattern with a steeper trend line. So this pattern has a steeper trend line. So think of a mountain. It is more difficult or more tiring to climb a mountain like this than a mountain that goes up like this. So that's the steeper one. 3b. Put a star on the trend line with a 0 y-intercept. Well, 0 y-intercept means that the trend line should be touching where the 2 axes cross each other. So this flat trend line has a 0 y-intercept. C. What part of the pattern rule tells you about the steepness of the trend line? What does it tell you? The multiplying part tells you the steepness of the trend line. That number, the multiplying number, also shows you what the first difference is, or how many times the pattern rule goes up by, or go down by sometimes, okay, as we move from position to position. D. What part of a pattern rule tells you about the y-intercept of the trend line? What does it tell you? Well, the adding part tells you the y-intercept of the trend line. And remember, the y-intercept is where the trend line crosses the vertical or y-axis. It's the starting position. Number 4. Complete the chart. So we are going to compare a bunch of different pattern rules. We will look at the rule themselves. We'll compare the rate of growth. So rate of growth, remember, is the multiplying part of the rule. It affects the steepness of the lines. And we will be saying whether each of those lines or trend lines will be steeper than or less steep than the original. We will also compare the y-intercept of these different pattern rules. So remember, the y-intercept is the adding part in the pattern rule. And we will talk about whether these y-intercepts will be greater than, the same as, or less than the original. And then we will show the graph of each trend line. So the original trend line is given on the graph, and here the rule is y equals to 2x plus 5. So it starts at 5 on the y-axis. And for each pattern, it goes 2 steps higher. So go across one position, go up 2 points. Across one, up 2 points, and so on. So when you connect these points, you get this line. The rate of growth is 2, is y-intercept is 5. So now line A. Y equals to 1x plus 5. So the multiplier is 1. It's smaller than 2. so this trend line will be less steep than the original. And the y-intercept is the adding part 5, which is the same as the original. So we are going to see a line that starts in the same position at 5. And as I move one position over, I have to move up by 1. That's the multiplier. Next position number, up by 1 tile. Next position number, up by 1 tile, and so on. So we can see that when we connect these points, this line has the same starting point, but is much less steep. So this is y equals to x plus 5. The next rule, y equals to 3x plus 5. Multiplier is 3. 3 is bigger than 2. So this pattern is more steep. This trend line will be more steep than the original. It has the same y-intercept, so we write down the same. So this time we go back to the same starting position of 5. Every time we move one position to the right, we increase the number of tiles by 3. One position to the right, increase the number of tiles by 3. Connect these points. This is y equals to 3x plus 5, a line that is steeper than the original but start at the same place. Next, we have y equals to 2x plus 7. Multiplier is 2, is the same as the original, so it has the same rate of growth, same steepness in other words. The y-intercept, the adding part, is plus 7. So this line will start higher than the original line at 7. To make this graph, start at 7. For each position, the number of tiles go up by 2. So 1 over, 2 up, 1 over, 2 up, 1 over, 2 up, and so on. Okay, so this is the line y equals to 2x plus 7. D. We have y equals to 2x. Rate of growth is still 2, so it's the same as the original graph. However, we recognize that this pattern rule doesn't have an adding part, or we can think of that as is adding 0. So the starting point will be way lower than the original trend line at 0. Every time we move up one position, the number of tiles will go up by 2. So 1 over, 2 up, 1 over, 2 up, and so on. So when we compare linear growing patterns, these are the things that we look for. Do the lines have the same rate of growth? Steeper trend line or less steep trend line? And do these lines have the same y-intercepts? Do they start at the same point or different points, higher or lower on the y-axis?